You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
And now, here's your host.
Welcome back to the program. I'm Zev Brenner. Rabbi Elchanan Poupko joins us. He's a writer, speaker, teacher, has written hundreds of articles and essays published in 7 languages around the world. He's advised several congressional campaigns, and he works with the Rabbinical Council of America. He's here in his own capacity on this broadcast. He's written an article basically saying that Jews shouldn't be supporting Donald Trump. They should be supporting Joe Biden, the president, and the Democratic Party. Rabbi Poupko, good luck. Thank you for joining us.
It's always good to be with you. Thank you.
So, tell us, what prompted you to write an article? I believe you saw something on Vus's Knives that got you excited, where you said you're going to write this article that Orthodox Jews should be more supportive of Democrats and President Joe Biden. What is it that got you worked up?
Thank you. It's a good question. So first of all, let me say that in general, I think rabbis being in politics is not the best thing. I think that in an ideal universe, I follow Rabbi Sax's advice, in which synagogues, rabbis in general should not be that involved in politics. But I think there's a very dangerous trend in the Orthodox community that leans to a 100% Republican situation. And another very dangerous trend is that there's this sort of banning and excommunicating people who don't fit in that fold, and it's really hurting our community. So besides for the fact that I believe in what I say, I think that speaking out on this is also part of making sure that everyone has a place in the Orthodox community.
So was there something in particular that got you, Seb? I think there was an article in Vin News, Vus's Knives, that got you going, where you decided to become more vocal, more public about this issue.
Yeah, I think that the article argued that being a Democrat is not in line with being an Orthodox Jew. And that's why when I wrote my article, I didn't cite any halachic or religious sources, because we see a really concerning trend of people using religion, using frumkeit, using Israel to bash other Jews who are Democrats who support the president. And that's very dangerous. So besides the fact that I think that the Democrats are better and have much better policies, the idea of saying, okay, you're less of a Jew because you are a Democrat is dangerous. I mean, much as I strongly, I don't even know what to say, what the word is, but someone like Jared Kushner, who I think has been terrible for the United States. I think if I saw him in Shul, I wouldn't walk out of Shul. And we're seeing this trend of people really kicking people out of shuls, making them feel unwelcome.
Well, it shouldn't be done, but why do you think Jared Kushner has been bad for the United States?
I think he's been a disaster. I think he should, to be honest, stand trial for crimes against humanity for the way he handled COVID, targeted New York, told people that PPE and ventilators are possessions of the federal government and not of states, refused to help New York in our most difficult time, really, when thousands of people were dying. I think he's a horror, and that's besides the fact that he didn't get security clearance and has been, making all these big billion-dollar deals with foreign governments. So with all that, I think that if I was in shul with him, I wouldn't say anything and I would dive in alongside, because you can't have a situation where the frum community, shul schools, are divided based on party.
But by the way, as far as COVID, there was a ship that was sent to New York which didn't use. There was a tremendous amount of politics involved here. So they can put blame on all sides. If you're looking at how much money it makes, I mean, look at Hunter. Listen, I'm going to take the other side. Hunter Biden, billions of dollars, Ukraine, Russia, China, worked with Kerry's son. So you had and the New York Post has been talking about this corruption. If it's proven to be the case and the laptop seems to be legitimate, despite the initial attempts, we're talking about the possibility the president of the United States involved in a corrupt enterprise. That certainly doesn't augur well for the Joe Biden or the Democratic Party, if it's proven.
The bottom line is that Kushner and whatever other Trump relatives did work for the federal government despite not receiving clearance. Hunter Biden, last I checked, was never and will never be a federal employee. And so,
But he
yes,
cashed in on his father's contacts.
yeah, they unfortunately, Meghan McCain is trying to sell her book at her father's gravesite. So what can I say? Children of presidents do try and use their name, and if they do so, they should definitely be scrutinized. But there's a big
I'm going to ask
difference.
this question, right, Poupko. Now, the Orthodox community, and especially the ultra-Orthodox one, I don't know the numbers, but I've seen as high as in the last election, probably about 90% voted for Donald Trump and like his policies, especially vis-a-vis Israel. The majority of non-religious Jews support the Democratic Party and Joe Biden. That's the fact. So what do you hear from your fellow co-religionists? Because you're a member of the Orthodox Jewish community, you seem to be out of step with most of them, not all of them, but most of them. What's been their response to your article and your position?
So as you can see in the comment section, there have been many, many responses, and most of them are not in agreement. But that just shows you how this dangerous trend is taking over our community. I don't need to tell you that the Republican Party of today is the Republican of white outrage that requires subscribing to QAnon and very dangerous policies that really kill their followers. If you look in terms of how red states are doing, the number of mortality of child mortality, the number of people dying from guns, the number of people with no access to healthcare is terrifying. So the fact that the frum community is trending in the direction, excuse me for saying this, of a trailer park in Alabama doesn't speak well for our community.
Explain that. When you say trailer park in Alabama, what are you saying exactly? Orthodox Jews don't live in Alabama?
Meaning the Republican Party is the party of white outrage, of people without a vision for solving your problems, meaning there's no solution for issues like healthcare infrastructure and making your life a better life. It's the party of culture wars. It's the party that subscribes to QAnon and things that are really
Well, they
out
don't
of
subscribe
touch
to
of
QAnon,
reality.
but as far as cultural wars, look at what's happening with the gender identity that's being
Exactly.
forced, and that's not done by Republicans. That's
Of
being done
course
by
it is. The fact that
Democrats.
you even mention it's not something. If you look at the president's agenda, his agenda, a successful agenda, has been infrastructure, healthcare, reducing the price of insulin, and yes, some of these gender issues do fall under his
That's a
agenda.
major thing. If you want to know what's going to drive the next election, Rabbi Poupko, it's going to be the gender war. It's going to be war
Well,
culture.
that's been an amazing success of a party that has nothing else to sell. So I'll give you an example from our community. Someone was telling me there was an election, I think, for the mayor of Great Neck. And so someone comes to speak in the shul and says, we need a vote for this Republican candidate because the other guy is going to teach critical race theory. Now, explain to me how a shul filled with people who send their kids to Jewish day school is that their number one vote will not be on healthcare, will not be on taxes, will not be on infrastructure. It's going to be on critical race theory that when their kids are not even in public school. So the Republicans have been very successful in taking these divisive things that it can become culture war and using them to rile people up. Look at the estate tax, right? How do you get all these people, again, in a trailer park in Alabama to care about a tax break for millionaires, which has nothing to do with them and never will? So the Republicans are good at selling these divisive culture wars, but the bottom line is the Democratic Party is the only party with a solution for problems. And it's hurting our community that we're taking the path of the least educated, most angry people in the United States.
Rabbi Elchanan Poupko is our guest. As you heard, he is challenging the Orthodox community to abandon the Trump position and being supportive and move more to the Democratic Party and be supportive of the Democratic agenda and President Joe Biden. When we come back, we continue our conversation. We'll take some of your phone calls, 212-769-1925, 212-769-1925. Do you agree with Rabbi Poupko's position? If you're Orthodox and supporter, we'd love to hear from you. If you don't like his position, We'd love to hear from you as well, but respectfully so. I have to stress, no matter what your position is, this is a program of ideas. You have to be respectful. You can ask tough questions, but you have to do it in a covered manner, in a respectful way. Again, our number is at 212-769-1925. You want to email us, zevbrenner@gmail.com, zevbrenner@gmail.com. We'll be back right after these messages. Stay tuned.
Talkline Network Radio, America's longest-running Jewish broadcast network, the voice of the Jewish community.
Did you know that in the infrastructure bill passed by Congress, there's a provision for every home to have internet access? The government is giving away the latest brand new Android tablets with 15 gigabytes of data a month for the next 5 years. Yeshiva students can qualify regardless of financial status if you receive a free breakfast or lunch or have a Pell Grant. Families receiving federal assistance of any kind, or if you lost your job, also can qualify. Call 866-MAX-SIP1 to get your free tablet. Again, that's 866-MAX-SIP1, the number 1, to get your free tablet. There is a one-time copay of $11. Call right now, 866-MAX-SIP1, or online at maxsipconnects.com. That's MAXSIP connects.com. Get your free tablet. Call 1-866-MAX-SIP1 right now.
Now you can hire a full-time worker for only $7 an hour. A full-time remote worker for only $280 a week with no payroll taxes. You'll get top Filipino employees that are fluent in English, hardworking, highly experienced with no recruitment fees. So whether you need help in bookkeeping, an architectural designer, photo or video editor, Amazon assistant, invoice management, or any specialized worker, then you must contact Hiring for Less to get good quality employees for only $7 an hour. Call 844-HIRE-HELP. That's 844-HIRE-HELP, or online at hiringforless.com. That's hiring the number 4 less.com.
It's time to put the simcha back into your special event. Superior Caterers will add a touch of perfection to any party. Sheva brachas, bar mitzvah, kiddush, barbecue, corporate event, or any special occasion when only the best will do. Superior Caterers prides itself in its personal customer service and will customize a menu to make a food memory come to life for your guests. From Brooklyn to the Hamptons and everywhere in between, let Superior Caterers add a classy touch to your simpler party. Call 800-SIMCHAS for more information. You'll be glad you did. 800-SIMCHAS, and let the simcha begin. 800-SIMCHAS for the ultimate perfection. Certified Glock under the KAJ and Babad. 800-SIMCHAS, Superior Caterers.
Flights are being canceled left and right. Need to maximize your time and don't want to sit in an airport for hours checking in, going through security and waiting for your flight? Need to get there safely and securely without hassle? Paraflight Aviation offers the personal touch for business executives on private jets locally and internationally using the highest safety standards. They can put together a flight in as little as 4 hours with their 24/6 dispatch center. Paraflight also offers a host of concierge services, including ground transportation, jet and helicopter charters, and fresh, lot kosher catering. Paraflight can arrange emergency flights for medical or family emergencies and funerals when time is of the essence. Paraflight's professional staff can get you there quickly and safely without the hassles. Corporate accounts welcome. Please call 844-538-1911 or 732-330-4400 or go to paraflight.aero. That's spelled AERO. That's 844-538-1911 or 732-330-4400. Paraflight, reaching the heights of success.
If you or a loved one has undergone cancer treatment and is now in remission, what comes next? Dr. Raphael Kelman, internist and holistic functional doctor and best-selling author, has put his decades of experience with post-chemo and radiation patients into a clinical program that reduces the aches, pains, fatigue, and all too common chemo brain, the debilitating effects of chemo and radiation. This unique program uses diet, supplements, natural compounds, detoxification, and microbiome therapies. Call the Kelman Wellness Center at 833-MD-HELP-ME for more information about how Dr. Kelman can help you feel your best. That's 833-MD-HELP-ME. Learn more about the Kelman Wellness Center at kelmancenter.com. That phone number again, 833-MD-HELP-ME. That's 833-MD-HELP-ME.
Here now is Dr. Mark Jacobson, periodontist, dentist, and cosmetic dentist, with today's dental moment.
Why do dentists recommend taking out wisdom teeth? Some dentists say that they may cause the lower front teeth to get crowded and overlap each other. Other dentists say that they could cause problems later in life, so that they should be taken out now. What is the truth? In fact, there is no study to demonstrate that wisdom teeth cause the front teeth to get crowded. When there are no back teeth, the lower front teeth may still get crowded. That's because they have very small contacts between them and slide past each other. Back teeth tend to move backwards, not forwards, causing spaces that trap food. So why take out wisdom teeth? They should be taken out only if they are partially exposed or are pushing against the tooth in front of it, creating a deep pocket. This can cause a space between the second molar and the third molar, which can lead to bone loss and loss of the second molar. Or you can get a cavity in the second molar and lose the second molar that way. Bacteria can also get in and lower your body's resistance to infection. If the wisdom tooth is completely buried in gum or in bone, or if the molar is in the upright position like the other teeth, there's no reason to take out the wisdom tooth.
For more information, please contact Dr. Mark Jacobson, a third-generation dentist located at 211 East 43rd Street in Manhattan at 212-697-3946. That's 212-697-3946.
You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
And now, here's your host.
Our numbers, by the way, 212-769-1925. Email zevbrenner@gmail.com. Rabbi Elchanan Poupko is a writer, speaker, teacher, written hundreds of articles, and we're looking at his recent one where he's saying that Jews should be supporting the Democratic Party agenda and President Joe Biden and not Donald Trump and the Republican Party. Well, Dovsher will ask questions. Let me first take a question from Queens, New York. Heshi in Kew Garden Hills. So you have a question for our guest. Go ahead, Heshi in Kew Garden Hills.
Yes. Yeah. Hi. I want to say in Yiddish there's an expression. Somebody says to another guy, asks him, "How you doing?" He goes, "Except for gesund, parnosa, and nachas, everything is great." So let's see the Democrats. Except for Sanctuary City, the border, anti-Semitism, people like Nadler and Schumer and Schiff, I think his name is.
Schiff, okay.
Terrible people. What they do about the Kavanaugh lies. I can go on and on and on and on. And for Trump, I can go on and on and on and on. Positive stuff. And also the Hunter thing. How can you? I'm being respectful, but how can you want destruction of America? Probably the worst president ever.
I'm going to let Rabbi Poupko respond to you.
All right, so thank you so much, and good Wochen. I hope you're enjoying Queens. It's a great place, and one of the things I pointed out in the article is that we choose to live in these blue districts, blue states, and if you just take a look statistically at the life expectancy, at the economy, at the reality in these deep red states that follow these ideas, it's a disaster. And so you mentioned sanctuary cities.
And you don't like the evangelical Christians either, right?
I mean, he mentioned sanctuary cities. Sanctuary cities are responsible for more than 60% of the GDP of the United States. So to say, oh, sanctuary cities, the immigrants are these, bad for the economy. It's absolutely insane for Jews living in blue states, blue cities that are the drivers of the economy to use these talking points of impoverished states like Kentucky, where you have districts that literally the salary for a year is what you spend on Pesach. You have districts in Kentucky that are $20,000 a year salaries. So the idea that somehow we're better off importing these ideas of poverty and destruction from deep red states in the Bible Belt or wherever it may be, it is absolutely mind-boggling, especially for Jews benefiting and choosing to live in blue
But let me ask you a
states.
question. You're talking about these states, but the fact is, though, in a lot of these states, you have evangelical Christians that are the most supportive of Israel in the United States today. I mean, it's changing because the younger generation are not as supportive of their parents. But I know you criticize evangelical Christians, which in a lot of these states, but they're very strong supporters of Israel. They're in some ways stronger than some segments of the Jewish community when it comes to the Holy Land.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm not here to talk down any evangelical group. I'm saying that the Republican ideas of basically no government, of guns, of no health care are destructive and corrosive ideas that have been tested. And you just look at the fact that the wealth and the health of the United States of America is based in the bright blue areas of the country, and it's just hard to understand how from Jews say, okay, let's bring all the poverty and death that you see in Kentucky and Louisiana, and let's implement here. I'm happy that you're living in Queens, and I wish someone in Kentucky can have the life that you have, because those policies have really destroyed a lot of middle America.
Okay, let's go. Stan in Forest Hills. This is probably your nightstand.
Hey, if I only this is it. This is a mitzvah tonight.
Rabbi Poupko, you made Stan's night or morning.
Where have you been, pal? Because let me say, I can't. You're probably on my agenda. Probably the smartest guy in the Orthodox community.
Thank you.
Because I've
after Zev.
Okay. well, no, I know where Zev stands, but that's okay. Look, the point is, was there a point where you said there had to be a point where he did something? Was there a point where you said to yourself, "God, I got to get away from this guy"?
You mean referring to who?
Trump.
I never ever supported him, and I think it's one thing to talk politics. The other thing is after January 6th, where you had a violent insurrection and an attempt to overthrow the United States of America. As from Jews who pray for the well-being of the government, who have always been following the rabbinic imperative to be loyal to the countries we live in, to support such treason, such a party of treason is just unacceptable on religious grounds, never mind the practicality and what I'm mentioning in terms of the bad policies of the GOP. You have the aspect of treason. You have an active plot to overthrow the United States of America's government. You have a plot to pursue authoritarian government. And as from Jews, yeah, we should for sure, resent that.
Absolutely. I agree. That's the main fact.
This is your night.
Oh, hey, it's as I said, it's a mitzvah. The key thing I want to ask you is this, because I don't think the Orthodox community will change unless he turns on the Orthodox or on the Jews. But
there's hope there, because he really turns on everyone. He
has.
I know.
By the way, he hasn't. Not only has not turned on the Orthodox community, he was at a Pesach program. He stopped in just during the Passover holiday. He got a lot of both back and forth. He had a great standing ovation from them. And
that doesn't surprise me. That's okay. Fine.
That's part of the problem.
Yeah, well, that is part of it. The question is, he has no respect. He doesn't believe in the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. For him, it's toilet paper. But the key point that I want to know from you is, do you see the Orthodox community at all in the future changing at all?
That's a very good question, and I think that it's concerning. Look, the fact is that Orthodoxy is shrinking in some sense, meaning the numbers are growing, but also a third of the people who grew up Orthodox are leaving Orthodoxy. The number of people who are joining Orthodoxy is at a low it hasn't been in a long time. And so I think this drive to extremism, to the embrace of MAGAism is hurting our community. I don't necessarily think the community is changing. I would much rather see people stay in the community with different opinions than leave it. So I think it is driving a change in the sense that people are leaving because of this
Anyway, Sam,
insanity.
we have a lot of other calls waiting, so thank you for your phone.
Thank you. Good
Listen,
luck, sir. Keep it.
Queens
Thank
tonight. Let's go to Kew Garden Hills. Ken and Kew Garden Hills, your question for Rabbi Elchanan Poupko. Go ahead.
Yeah, Tim, not Ken, but close enough.
Tim,
Anyway,
okay.
I want to agree with him partially and disagree partially. Partially, I agree with him. You know, I used to support Trump. Okay, I was a red MAGA hat guy. Then I finally realized the guy is severely mentally disturbed. And January 6th was the last straw. And the Republicans like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz, they're also Michiganers. They're insane. They're crazy people. So I agree with you. But why should I then go with the Democrats? They're also mentally disturbed. You have people in that party who believe in 532 different genders that you can choose every Monday and Thursday. You know, you have a party that no longer believes in border security. I mean, there's a complete disaster at the southern border right now. It's not very well reported. People are not talking about it. But ever since Biden became president, there's been a gigantic flood of illegal aliens across the southern border, bringing in, might I also add, drugs such as fentanyl that are killing Americans. So, I partially agree. Trump is a nightmare. The people that support him are a nightmare. But why should I go along with the Democrats? No, I'm not gonna go with them either. Especially when you have the likes of the Squad and Ilhan Omar and AOC and the rest of them. You know, like Zev was saying, the evangelical Christians in the South have been the greatest supporters, not just of Israel, but of Jews, of Jewish people against all these anti-Semites. And they deserve
I'm
our.
let Rabbi Poupko respond
Thank
to
you. Sure.
It's a good question. So number one is role of government is to solve people's problems. So you can have all the culture wars you want. The bottom line is this is not a sports game. It is about solving problems. And so the party that will look at, reducing your healthcare costs, the party that will look at making sure your life is better. I heard one of the advertisements was to give people free access to internet, laptops, or whatever it was. The idea is right. The Democratic Party has solutions to your life problems. The Republican Party doesn't. In terms of culture wars, again, it's not a focus of the Democratic Party. It happens to be they check some boxes on the issues. They have positions, but their main focus is to solve problems. Now, the issue of gender and other social issues is not at the ballot box because these are trends that are taking place across Europe, Canada. These are things that Western societies are going through. So whether you vote Republican or Democrat is not changing that. Really, we're talking about issues that affect your life. And in terms of, people like the Squad, their influence obviously has been reduced. We're very happy Chantel Brown won in Ohio, and there's definitely much less of an influence from the Squad on the Democratic Party than extremists, sometimes neo-Nazis like Madison Cawthorn and Marjorie Taylor Greene have with their stronghold on the GOP.
Okay, let's go to David in Borough Park. Your question for our guest. Go ahead.
Hi, good evening, Zev and Mr. Poupko.
Rabbi Poupko, hold on.
It's okay.
Don't be insulting. No.
Okay.
It's Rabbi Poupko. Don't defraud because you don't like his opinion. I know where you're coming from, right? Go ahead, David.
Okay, I'm trying to fathom what Rabbi Poupko is trying to say. If he would be saying we got to keep our options open in both parties and be supportive of certain Democrats who are good to us, the Jews, and good for America, I can understand that because that's what AIPAC approach is. AIPAC cannot be just on one side. We can't lose both sides or one of the sides. But if it's what I'm hearing from him is to embrace the Democratic Party and the Democratic way of thinking and doing things, this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. What they did what the Democrat Party, with all what they did, all the shtick they did, they're trying to become the only party that's going to be elected, and that means becoming a fascist state if there's only one party that's going to be elected forever. Our country was founded on both parties, were sometimes this party, sometimes that party.
Good
We
point.
cannot
There
have-
should be two strong, viable parties. I'm gonna let Rabbi Poupko respond to you.
One
So-
minute, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm not finished.
Hold on.
What happened
we
was-
don't have all night, and we have.
I'll try to make it quick. What happened was, in the olden days, the Jews were enamored by the Democratic Party and President Roosevelt. And I'm not going to get into all the things that Roosevelt didn't do for the Jews and did against the Jews, and the Democratic Party did also. This is absolutely ridiculous. I don't know what is Rabbi Poupko trying to say here. This is a terrible thing he's saying.
Let's let Rabbi Poupko respond because we have other people who want to ask questions as well. So go ahead, Rabbi Poupko.
First of all, a few points. You brought up very good points. The idea of bipartisanship is important, and I respect it, and I respect the work AIPAC does. If the Frum community would be divided 50-50, that would be, I would speak out much less because that's a pretty much a normal thing. The problem is our community is become unipartisan, and there's no room. I know stories of Rabbeim laughing at the mothers of their kids, people being pushed out of their shuls. The idea that Frum communities will have one party is insane. And you're right, we do need some kind of bipartisanship. And one of the reasons I'm here is to make sure that the Frum community is at least 50-50.
No, I didn't. I'm sorry, Rabbi Poupko. I didn't say bipartisanship for the whole party. I meant bipartisanship for certain people in the Democratic Party who are good for us.
I got you. Okay.
Most of them are not.
Okay.
I don't want a Nadler. I don't want a Nadler. I don't want a Schiff. I don't want these guys representing me.
Now, it's interesting. You mentioned President Roosevelt. My great-grandfather stood outside of the White House during the Holocaust. And like many Jews, I agree with you that Roosevelt and Rabbi Stephen Weiss, the way they stood by when our Yidden were killed in the Holocaust is terrible. I think that one thing is important to note, though, for historical perspective. What was the other side saying, right? So Roosevelt didn't do enough, but what was the other side? The other side had people who were literally sympathizing with the German Bund. There was a real possibility of America aligning with Hitler. Ambassador Kennedy, that was a real option. And so much as we judge that generation, you have to remember the other side was with the possibility of aligning with Hitler. Now, in terms of having democracy, the Republican Party is the party of authoritarianism. It's the party of January 6th. It's a party that it was trying to overthrow the elections in Georgia. And so if you believe in the Constitution and democracy, today's Republican Party with its authoritarian bend is not a viable possibility. It's the party of treason against the United States that does not believe in democracy as long as it doesn't bring January 6th to justice.
Anyway, thank you. We have so many questions, and I'm trying to have a whole bunch of email questions too. But let's go to Chicago. Micha is listening in Chicago, I believe, on the internet. Micha, you there? Micha, you there? Okay. I'll take a quick email question before we break. Naftali from Brooklyn writes, Rabbi Poupko, how can you ignore the fairly obvious fact that the Democratic Party widely advocates, first of all, defunding police forces, turning our law and order people into social workers. Secondly, it aggressively pursues the LGBTQ agenda, taking apart family values and spreading justification of deviant lifestyles.
So it's a good question. Just the first question, can you just repeat the first part of the question?
It talks about the fact that they advocate defunding the police.
Right. So that's exactly what I was saying before, how they're such geniuses of culture wars. President Biden in the State of the Union said he is for funding the police. The people who voted to defund the police, who voted to defund the military, were Trump and the Republican Party. And so the Democratic Party is funding the police. It's funding the military, while the Republicans are blocking it. In terms of social issues, again, these are trends that are taking place across Europe, Canada, South America. It's not an American issue. And if we make the mistake that people like Liberty University and some evangelicals have taken to think that they can make people more or less religious at the ballot, we're going to end up the same way evangelicals are, with their children becoming less religious and people escaping their group. Religion is religion is in shul and in yeshiva, not at the ballot. It's not going to change anything.
Let's try to get quicker answers because we have a lot of questions coming.
All right.
Let's go to Micha in Chicago, listening online. Go ahead, Micha, are you there?
Yes.
Go ahead, your question for our guest. Go ahead, Micha.
So,
Micha, you have about 10 seconds. If you're not, I'm going to the next one. Do you have a question?
the question is really how can you even suggest to support a person who cannot think clearly, cannot even say complete sentences most of the time when he's speaking. He doesn't answer questions. He's not held accountable to anything, and he's being controlled from the shadows. And yet you're suggesting to support this individual.
So I mentioned before that the problem with the Republican Party is that it requires belief in QAnon and things that are beyond the pale of normal. And so the idea that Joe Biden is not Joe Biden and it's really an actor, and every week there's, is it this actor, that actor? Is he? Joe Biden has had a stutter.
They don't say he's an actor. They just say
they unfortunately they do. They say that's what he just said. He's ruling from the shadows. He's not speaking. He had a stutter his whole life. He's been in the Senate his whole life. He's spoken this way his whole life. So the idea that somehow he's being controlled and he's not speaking, it's QAnon type of stuff.
Clearly, no, it's not. You're spreading conspiracy theories from beginning to end here. January 6th, officers let people in. There are people taking pictures. All right, all of the narratives that have been pushed by the Democrats have fallen away. It's been proven to be false. President Trump never called for any violence. He said
he's on.
You are the one spreading conspiracy theories here.
Meaning first of all, the investigation is still ongoing, right? And so innocent he for sure is not, because otherwise he would cooperate. He's a twice impeached failed president whose followers are in prison, right? How many people are in prison? Some of them unfortunately are, ended up coming January 6th. People are in prison. People are being investigated for their role in January 6th. Georgia, the state of Georgia.
Let him finish.
The state of Georgia has an official criminal investigation against him for, when he famously asked for 11,000 votes. This is an authoritarian criminal way to overthrow. But that's an investigation that's ongoing, so you can't speak to that.
Anyway, thank you for your phone call. We're almost out of time. I have a whole bunch of questions I got to get. Sarah writes, I wouldn't vote for Trump, but I hope to vote for another moral Republican as president. We have to get our country back on some moral ground. We are Yidden after all.
So I'm sure Sarah lives in a nice blue state, a blue district where she has her rights and services, and that's part of the issue. And Zev, you look at the red states and the poverty and the lack of healthcare and the short life expectancy and the broken states. So to say that somehow we want to bring that into the places where we benefit and enjoy democratic states with proper infrastructure and safety nets is we're undermining ourselves.
So Joseph writes, the Democrats are the spend party that is causing terrible inflation that hurts us all. Plus, President Biden is probably senile. At least he comes through that way.
Yeah, so in terms of spending, the issue is that, first of all, inflation is a real thing. It's a real thing around the world, Japan, Germany. You got to look at it broadly. You're right. It is a real concern. It's hurting people, but it is something that's happening globally. That spending is spending that is there to protect people who are weak. And ultimately, it's something that makes those states wealthy. So the wealthiest states are California, New York, Massachusetts. It's states that do spend a lot on welfare. So it ends up being that those states are the ones who thrive. So it makes no sense for us to say, oh, we shouldn't spend money, because those are the states who do best. And in terms of where that money is coming from, yeah, eventually it's money that builds the economy and makes those states the richest ones.
AI right, Shavua Tov, Zev, great show as usual. Please tell your honored guest, even the Justice Department has determined that January 6th was not an insurrection. Please let him not deviate from the truth of the facts that, according to the Justice Department, 2, Biden, as vice president, is openly caught on tape and camera giving the Ukrainian government an ultimatum to either fire the Ukrainian prosecutor who is investigating his son Hunter, or they don't get the $1 billion they were supposed to get. Quid pro quo, an impeachable offense. Biden and his son are playing crooks. Follow all the New York Post investigative exposés.
So first of all, the New York Post is owned by Rupert Murdoch, just like Fox News, who is an un-American threat to the United States and spreads a lot of disinformation undermining the United States. In terms of January 6th, yes, it is an insurrection. The head of I don't remember if it's Proud Boys or what terrorist organization, but they are being charged with insurrection. It has been an insurrection. You can see the footage, you can see the plans, you can see the text messages from the chief of staff, Mark Meadows. It's extremely explicit. It's all out there. The January 6th committee has been regularly releasing the text it subpoenas. Yes, there was an attempt to throw the United States of America's government over. Yes, that is treason against the United States. And yes, those people should be prosecuted. We can't support it. So to start talking about, Hunter's laptop or gender wars.
Well, does Hunter laptop have any role? Because listen, according to the polls, had the Hunter laptop story gotten out before the election, it could have swayed the election for Donald Trump. The fact that it was suppressed by the media, that's a fact.
Look, I mean, the Hillary Clinton emails did change the election, right? That's something, and we all look back and laugh at it. We voted for the most incompetent authoritarian criminal in the history of the United States of America presidency, and just because she had private emails while he was literally overthrowing the U.S. government. So,
but it's come out that she also started the investigation, Donald Trump, where the whole thing was based, that whole Russia hoax theory was turned out to the opposite way, where you had Hillary Clinton and some of her supporters were planting the story which had no basis in actuality. That's the fact also.
Then why did he plead the fifth and avoid every single investigation? I mean, the fact is that the number of people from his immediate circle who sat in prison, I'm talking about people who committed treason, like Mike Flynn, like...
Mike Flynn is not in prison.
He was pardoned. Okay, he's a criminal, right? He's a traitor to the United States of America. He's a foreign agent.
I wouldn't say, but
Paul Manafort. These are people who have committed.
Paul Manafort was not convicted on. He was convicted on something else.
Yeah, these are criminal people
who
are foreign assets, and so the idea that somehow someone's private emails or who was it, Huma Abedin, or all these Sean Hannity talking points, which end up resulting in nothing, versus a group of people who committed treason against the United States and are
We're going to have you come back. We have so many calls.
All right.
Dosha had a quick 30-second question for you.
30-second question. Is my mic on?
Yeah.
Rabbi Poupko, my father's best friend was Rabbi Poupko from East New York.
Very nice.
You must be related, right?
My great uncle Rav Yitzchak Poupko, I'm sure Zev knew him. The show's still going on IN 5th.
Right.
Yeah. He married Schneerson, so he was also very close with the Lubavitcher Rebbe.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And my sister-in-law is related to also Perlow, Shani Perlow.
Oh, yeah.
It literally
it brings back memories. I remember Rabbi Poupko. He was so beautiful. Ken, yeah. Okay, so that's my only question. It's the final question of the evening. I guess.
Best question. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Anyway, thank you. I'm going to throw in a 10-second question. Joy writes, what is he talking about? Republican Florida has one of the best healthcare systems.
So Florida scores, I think, 49th on several things, but Florida may have a good healthcare system if you are rich. That doesn't mean that everyone in the state has a good life expectancy. It doesn't mean that people have access. It's yes, Florida is good, but it has a lot of liberal policies.
Right? We're out of time. We have to have you back. I couldn't even get to Lots of questions coming in.
Anytime.
So, but thank you for that. And that's what this program is about, an exchange of ideas, whether you like them or not. We have a healthy exchange and conversation. Rabbi Elchanan Poupko, thank you for joining us tonight, this
Thank
morning.
you for having me. Thank you.
And of course, you're listening to the Talkline Network, and we appreciate you tuning in on this program tonight. Okay.